Hi there, this is NikitaNet, and as you see, I've got another camera acquisition, another Minolta, another Weathermatic, this time a Zoom and a Vectis. And hopefully you noticed this, because we need to talk about that. So, well, let's get started. So when recently going about the secondhand shops, I saw this box very nicely and neatly, and I thought, well, that's nice, and for that price, and in Dutch not tested, that's fine. But there is something very interesting with this. But first, let's take a look in this box, because, well, there's a bag which I have to wash first because it's still a little bit dirty. Haven't had time for that. There is a manual which I'll have to study because, of course, this is, well, a zoom camera, which is always a little bit, well, interesting. In German, in Dutch, in Espanol, I believe, so Spanish. We've got a couple of stickers as well, some other goodies in French, and, well, of course, some type of warranty, well, leaflet. So, is it? Yeah, I think so. That's of course not a camera, because I've got it already cleaned up as best I can, as quickly as I can, and mounted to this nice little camera bracket, which I picked up for, well, 50 cents. And as you can notice, hopefully at least, there's a Sony action cam mounted to this entire thing, and of course there was this neat little wrist strap thingy, I guess it is, attached as well, which you can very simply detach. Right, okay, so this is a, well, Minolta Vectis Weathermatic Zoom, which basically means it's an APS camera, not an APS-C or something like that, but an APS camera which takes film. And where did I put that small roll of film? Yes, because recently I also purchased some Kodak Advantix APS film, and I got a battery which we'll have to put in here first of all to check if this camera works at all, with of course the big comfort, well, scissors. And I was quite interested and intrigued when purchasing this camera, and of course it's an interesting purchase because, of course, as most of you know, the APS, let's see, open is to the left, the APS, well, APS film is no longer produced. Okay, that's interesting. So, I do know that when you're faced with a battery compartment in a weather-tight or watertight, at least in some extent, camera, you need to open up the film compartment, right, open, and release some tension. And I'm guessing I haven't, right, there it is. So, let's do it like that. Let's take stock and note. CR2, right, correct, and it goes in like that. It's not quite clear, but here it is. Ooh. And it's on 0, although there's no film in there, but let's make sure we've closed it properly. And it clicked, so that's good. But it's off, and it has multiple modes, so it has no film in there. Auto, an eye, a flash, no flash, something with a star, a person, and then of course retract the film back into the cassette. Now, I'm not going to explain everything about APS film, unfortunately, Azriel Knight has a couple of videos on this film system, but I am going to show you the roll and tell you a bit about the basics. Now, this film was developed as a replacement for 35 or 135mm film. It has the possibility of including data on a magnetic strip somehow on the edge of the film roll. It's a smaller format than 35mm, and it is reloadable. With that I mean not reloadable as in new film in the cassette, no. When you want to switch film types, it can spool back into the canister and then be reused at a later date, because it has an indicator here and also some way of, well, remembering which frames are exposed and which are not. Somehow. Don't ask me how, and I don't know if it's fully compatible with this camera, but let's turn it off to save some battery. Some features were included in some of these cameras that were very advanced for the time. And as you can see here, it has some contacts. Just watch Azriel Knight's, well, video on this camera system, which is much better than I can ever explain it. Now, if you know a little bit about the format, you can select, at least in the preview, well, rangefinder style of window right here, what type of scene you will use. And in the manuals, right, those wonderful manuals, I'll most likely find the explanation for, well, what functions this camera supports and such. But this, and this is a black and white film, which is over, well, its best buy date by some margin, I would reckon. We'll go in here, right, open, and then let's see. I don't want to touch the lens because I've already cleaned it. It can only fit in one way, so let's drop it in and do this, and then just close it. This is wonderful. It just loaded on here completely, 25 frames. So this camera is ready to rock and roll. Now, I've got the Weathermatic 35 dual lens, well, something like that, around here somewhere, and let's grab it. Well, can I? I really can't. It's under the desk, and well, the tripod is in the way. But there's one big disadvantage with that camera, and that is that it doesn't have a tripod screw mount, and this one does. So even though it's a film format that is no longer in production, I hope I can get some extra rolls of film, and I've got 3 additional ones, if I remember correctly, of this stuff in the fridge. But I hope I can get some color film as well, and just use this rig as it is right here. Right, let's just mount it quite quickly, because then we can combine some, well, photo and video in the same, well, workflow, which is quite handy. And I can use this camera rig outside when it's raining and bleak, and, well, you get the point. I won't have to worry about ruining my camera gear, perhaps this bracket, but once again, that was 50 cents, and I've got a couple of others that are perhaps non-metallic, but this one is quite well painted. And well, let's just do some funky stuff and make a quick photograph scene as the first photo that most likely has been taken in quite some time with this camera. And I believe this camera is set up to start recording right away. Yep, so there we go. Let's make a nice quick scene. and just give you an idea of what we'll do with this thing. And of course, auto. Yes, it zooms. Let's. Ooh, this is interesting. It zooms in quite nicely. Let's put it on H. Well, let's see quite quickly. First photograph in quite a number of years, and that's interesting. Too closely focused. That's it. That was one photograph quite quickly taken. And it's blinking. Wonderful. So, I'll turn it off and let's go outside for the next video in this series about this, well, Minolta Vectis Weathermatic Zoom APS camera in this rig. So, this is Nikita Net saying, I hope you found this introduction interesting, and thanks for watching. Bye-bye.